Hello there, and welcome to a new build guide for Age of Wonders 4. So, you asked me a while ago to do a economy strong build, and I'm happy to serve. Here we got a Eldritch support heavy feudal build. Yeah, it is exactly that. It sounds a little bit crazy, but it works extremely well. So its power lies in buffing to no end and healing and supporting and wearing down your enemy while maintaining a stupidly strong economy and being fast in pretty much any aspect of the game that you could wish for. Now, let's get started. First off, traits. I went for overwhelm tactics. Your feudal blood brings you the stand together trait, which gives you 20% more damage if you're adjacent to another buddy of yours, so that just amplifies this effect. With crits, I also went with white wolf mounts. These are pretty amazing for not only the dark culture, but also for this one. The pack hunter passive brings us 10% more damage for our mounted units, namely shields and knights, shock units, per ally surrounding the target. Pretty useful stuff. And Enfeebling Howl also comes in very, very handy as this skill scales up with the tier of the unit. We have that on tier 2 and tier 3 units, and that's pretty good stuff. So, cultural, I went for Prolific Swarmers. It is a pretty good trait as it slims down the cost of your troops. It gives you a rank plus on your tier 1 units, since you have an evolving spear unit as a native unit that's pretty strong, and it keeps your cities growing fast. Also very useful since we're using the sacrificial techniques of our Eldritch ruler quite a lot. And the other one is Chosen Uniters. I picked that up because this build excels also at maintaining good relations with free cities and having a lot of Rally of the Lieges action and such. So this comes in very handy. Exchangeable though, depending on your realm. Some realms, well, they just don't have free cities or such, so feel free to exchange that where it doesn't fit, but it's a very strong fit into the strengths of this build. Now, tone-wise, I start out with Faith. Faith and Feudal is a very powerful combination. It gives you Staves of Mending, which gives your supporters a free touch heal. It gives you a Chaplain unit, which is really powerful. Nifty burst heal, and he also acquires the Staves of Mending passive, and he also has by standard an ability to boost someone's strength and defenses. Very useful for us as we lack pretty much any steroids of any sorts for damage, so these guys are really versatile units. I go as far as even exchanging them completely or almost completely with my native tier 2 supporters because they're that good. So the other thing here, Faithful Whispers, helps you to maintain good relations with free cities and keep them. Really powerful thing. Pick it up early to make sure nobody can steal those cities from you. Convent, very powerful as we are going Tentacle as the next tome, and city stability, we have a lot of that. We can also maintain a lot of that. Army Heal, well, I got that as a free spell to begin with. It is useful at the beginning of the game, after that it is borderline useless if you can't skip it. Mending Touch on your heroes is amazing, really amazing. Free touch heal action, wonderful. Abbey brings you knowledge income, boosted by farms. Since we are interested in a high population growth, this is a really powerful province. The other tier 1 we pick up, Tentacle. So here we get a lot of useful tools. Tendril Labyrinths for cities. This is just massive. The extra stability goes directly into knowledge and mana production via convents, so I really like that synergy. There's also the constriction focus, which is basically the backbone of our ranged attackers in our armies, because those supporters are important for us. And constrictors, really massive spear units, your true spear units as your tier 1s evolve into shields. They can constrict, they can pull, and they're very useful units. Conjure Tentacle to spam that friendly neighborhood tentacle wherever you need somebody stopped. Also on your heroes. Really massive as it can shut down the enemy's movement exactly where you need it. I really love that thing. So, tier 2, I went straight up with Fey Mists. It is Staves of Mist which I'm after first. So this gives you then, after the first touch heal, another free action heal, on a distance this time. And it applies Clinging Mist, which not only makes you harder to hit, but also it gives you a free buff as soon as you have Fey touched, researched and applied, and it gives you here positive status effects if you are affected by mist. Yeah, here. Pretty useful stuff, and you can use various spells to spam out more mist. Why is this useful? It shuts down the enemy's ability to hit you with ranged attacks. This comes with 2 layers of quality here, with the direct healing and status effect bonuses and shutting down the enemy's ranged attacks. Really powerful stuff, and as some icing on the cake, we get to summon a tier 3 skirmisher, which finally gives our build some serious punch. Since we are so good at healing stuff, these guys are really easy to be kept alive, and yeah, I really like the synergy there. And Lingering Mists for your mist preparation for bigger battles can be really, really useful too. Pick up Fey Blessing on your heroes too, and Fey Water Ponds, well, ugh, they're sorta okay, but I rarely build them. There's so many other things I need to do before I get to these. That's practically what happens every game. The next one I picked up, Doom Herald. So we need something to increase the pressure on our enemies, and this one serves just right. Joy Siphoners, since we are rocking a lot of cultural units, is really, really powerful, because it starts to wear down the enemy and power up our own troops. I like the synergy on that. Cruel Weaponry gives us damage bonuses when the enemy starts crumbling, and Cause Despair can speed up that process. Prelude of Doom, if you have the available mana, you see I do have quite a lot of it, can be quite useful. The Banshee will... Ugh, she doesn't really fit into the preparations of our build. We only have the constricting focus as a backbone for what they do. You can use them, but not too well. That's my personal verdict. There's also the Doom Depth Trench. Well, use it wisely, as it counters your convents a little bit, but the payoff is amazing if you choose to play evil. Tier 3 comes, and I chose Cycles. So here we pick up something that makes our supporters even more deadly via Projectiles of Decay, and it also powers up the archers of yours, which are not really meant to be used in the later stages of the game. This one is more of a bonus for your supporters and your skirmishers, but that just as a side note. Diffuse Health is amazing as a burst and heal spell, and Parting Gifts is where things get really nuts, as all of war-friendly units' deaths will trigger healing. Druid of the Cycle stands on top of the food chain of our support army setup, and they can resurrect, they can deal a lot of damage, and yeah, I think really that these guys excel at what we are doing here already. And Cycle of Seasons is quite nice for your city defenses. The other tier 3 that I really like to pick up for this one is then Sanctuary. So yeah, we're going all in here with the supporty theme. With Keeper's Mark, your frontliners are almost invulnerable, because you will have enough healing capacities to just heal about anybody who goes into lethal range after the effect of this one procs. Anointed People is just really nice to have, and Salvation gives you a blitz heal in case you needed another heal. Consecrated Domain and Healing Spires is good for your defensive side, as Sanctuary and Sanctify. So the other tier 3, the tier 4s that we pick up, ideally, I'd vouch for going deeper into the order section, as Supremacy and Exaltation offer you all the tools that you could wish for. This build does not excel at killing people fast. It does excel at being almost unkillable at all stages of the game. So your roster, I'd really recommend to skip the archers as completely as you can. They might be useful early on, but this flatlines very, very quickly, as pretty much nothing except for projectiles of decay works for these. And therefore, invest your money instead into peasant pikemen. They're cheap, they evolve into cavalry defenders, and if they die, you don't need to worry about that too much. On the tier 2 sector, you have the meat and bones of your build. You have bannermen, which have a point blank AoE healing and point blank AoE buff spell. They are a little bit clunky to pull off, but that Soothing Standard spell is amazingly powerful if it is applied properly, and Bulwark Standard does not look like much, but it is on a very, very low cooldown, and these bonuses, they give more percentile reduction than you might think. In a moment of doubt, they also have all the nastiness that our ranged attacks provide. So all in all, I see them as the least important part of our supporter build, but they excel at being frontline. That's what they're really good at, because of their build being innately synergistic with the frontline. Chaplains are more of a backline supporter. Their spells have a higher range, they have a real true support skill, and Fey Blessing and Mending Touch gives them all the flexibility to heal wherever they are needed. These guys, I see them as the primary backbone of my support build here. And the Constrictors are really, really cool units to have all over the board. They are basically your offensive frontliners before the knights pop up. After the knights are around, they are your cavalry counters and your counters for fast-moving objects on the enemy side. Constrictors are amazing to pull out shock units, phasing units, all that stuff that tries to get into your backline and block your spells. That's where Constrictors shine, and that's why you should really try to always have some. The utility of these girls is just way too amazing. The defenders are, well, your bread and butter frontlines unit. You will be having a lot of these, as I strongly recommend to print out peasant pikemen like crazy, and the ones that survive, they transform into these bad boys. They are pretty hard to kill with melee damage. They melt relatively fast under magic damage, but due to the enfeebling howl, you can use them as a soft AoE nuke on the front line. 3 or 4 people of this, they really start to rack up damage, and the most important thing is they debuff the enemy and soften their blows. This goes very well into our entire supporty strategy, because if the enemy doesn't hit as hard, we need less heals to pull off the same thing. And yeah, you will see how well it works. It's really amazing. And in a nutshell, the enfeebling howl makes it possible that these guys tank way more than they should. And on top of the food chain of our frontliners stands the knight. These guys deal a decent amount of damage. They will be ultimately replaced by the tier 4 order tomes in this build, but until then, they are your backline killers. Use the inspiring killer, as this is a really, really massive bonus, and their enfeebling howl hits way harder than the one of the defenders. Their main downside, they die relatively easy, but with this build, well, that downside practically doesn't exist, which makes them really stupidly powerful, in my humble opinion. So, I want to showcase the Mistling real quick. So, these fellas, as you see, they have a singular strike. They have a pretty different pattern than usual skirmishers. They play way more than a shock trooper, and this makes them fit into this roster so gosh darn well. They teleport back after striking, so they are never really up front with the enemy, and they have a ranged attack that they are allowed to use every turn, and basically they are replacing the archer's slot, because they can hit like a truck in the front line, but they have no problem whatsoever just dishing out random status effects from the backline, and mind you that this is 24 damage. It's not a low amount of damage at all. So these are super useful units, and can warmly, warmly recommend them. Alright, so strategy-wise, of course, the Feudal, they just excel at expanding. You can so easily print out more cities than you can possibly maintain. Your troops are dirt cheap, and well, the main advantage of the feudal culture lies in the fact that they come with these fancy feudal lords, which allows you to boost whatever income you currently need. So, Lord of Production and Lord of Crops are amazing for this build, especially the Lord of Crops. I want to mention here how our Eldritch Ruler goes into this build. So, Entral population plus the Dark Knowledge Ritual are an amazing pump for knowledge. We can vassalize cities really, really easy. But on top of that, we are also capable of growing our own cities very, very fast. So this brings you to the point where you have almost no problems printing out as many draws as you possibly want. Your world map casting points are eventually the one hindering aspect, so you might want to focus that a little bit. Abbeys are amazing, and so are Doom Depth Trenches and Tentacle Labyrinths. The rest of these, well, they are sort of situational. The Levy Camp, though, well, like I said, we have so many food producing advantages that it is gosh darned easy to have to manipulate one city at least to a really, really fast growth and keep it going from there. You are weakest early. Your damage profile early on sucks. Alright? I can't sugarcoat it in the face. Where you are sitting only on Faith and Tentacle, your build does not deal too much damage. But, and that's the amazing part, you can heal your units like crazy. As soon as you have Mending Touch and a couple of Chaplains available, and the same things on your hero, or at least the Restore, and some Manifest Tentacle available, it is surprisingly easy to win combats because you just outlast the enemy very, very easily. You have on the battlefield, I personally have used Conjure Tentacle on this build most, and before I had it available Call to Glory, as it is a soft buff, but it is a really, really useful buff. But after Conjure Tentacle comes available, things become a lot easier. For your army setup, try to rely on a lot of supporters. Don't shy away from having 6 to 10 supporters on your army. Also, use the Rally of the Lieges to get yourself other units that are interesting. Get yourself foreign supporters to broaden your sphere of influence. The important thing is to see your support troopers in this build not only as utility troops but also as damage units. The thing is, due to the fact that Fey Blessing and Mending Touch are free actions, your support troops always have their ranged attack available while maintaining a high healing quality on your army. So altogether, this build wins the fight not nearly as fast as others, but I have not lost a fight remotely. And since you get eventually to the into the luxury of having even resurrection available on the Tome of Exaltation, yeah, things are really, really interesting. This combination of order and nature is amazing, provides a super powerful economy, and at this point what you see here is a little bit of a misplay on my side. That gold that you see here should be invested into another blob of this quality. It is really easy for this build to maintain stupidly large armies. Just compose them out of supporters, pikemen, and a couple of constrictors and see what happens. Ideally, they'll kill off a lot of enemies. So if you are sending just a suicidal army of supporters and frontliners, you will get somewhere, as it is surprising hard for the enemy to kill you. If you want to go for alternatives in this build, I have seen a lot of synergy with Glades, upgrading your archers into something more useful and Aspect of the Root, but I found that too defensive, that's why I went for Doom Herald instead. So that's the one point. And the other point that I saw as a possibility was to go into corruption instead of the order path. That would work as well because it would give you an amazing immunity against conditions and a lot of casting capabilities, enhancing your swarming qualities even further and your knowledge rush capabilities. This build version would opt into the Reaper and Oblivion path at the end of its way, so just as something that you can't see there. I love this build for the economy that it brings and the insane stream of units, and it's fun to just keep healing and healing and healing and healing and never running out of heals. It also gives you the ability to use on your heroes, on the signature skills, a little bit more of the offensive things. Or, well, summons never grow old. So, that all being said, I hope you enjoyed this build. I really did. It is something else. I personally love playing support heavy builds. They are fun as hell, as to me, it's very satisfying to see how the enemy's attempts to hurt me are just glancing off. That's just a very satisfying experience. So let me know what you think. Leave a thumbs up, consider subscribing, check out the description box. All the links are leading to my Age of Wonders playlist, or feel free to support the channel directly via PayPal, Patreon, or buy me a coffee or channel memberships. Whatever pleases you will please me as well. Thanks for supporting if you do so. Enjoy my gratitude. And, of course, a big thanks to you, especially, for watching this video right here, right now. See you soon, and have a good one. Bye-bye.